Hi everybody, welcome to this edition of Iredell-Statesville Schools EDTalks. We have two very special guests with us today, and our program is about MTSS. So please welcome Jessica Mack and Janna Sells. Ladies, thank you very much for coming by today, and we're excited to hear about MTSS. Yes. Let's start off by letting you explain, what does that acronym mean?
Well, MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered System of Support, and really what that means is we are just looking at every single child on a whole child approach. We're looking at them academically, we're looking at them behaviorally, and we're making a team approach on how to support that child and the supports that they need. I think one thing that makes MTSS unique in Iredell-Statesville schools is that we guarantee when your child walks in our doors that they are going to be supported in whatever way that they need, that we're not going to let that child fall between the cracks starting as early as kindergarten.
So it's really about customizing the educational experience for the individual needs of the child, really.
It really is.
Yeah. Who is MTSS designed for?
Everyone.
Every single child.
100%. Yep, 100% of our students. It's for our students that are struggling academically, behaviorally, below grade level, and even for those that are above grade level.
So it runs the entire gamut.
It really does. And I think one of the neatest things about MTSS, when I was using MTSS model in my classroom, is that every student, excuse me, has a goal. Every student sets a goal. They know exactly where they are based off of data. We're using data much more authentically than ever before. We're assessing children. We know why they can't read or where their anchor deficits are in math or what that root cause is or that function is for their misbehavior. And we're reteaching those skills in a very strategic manner. And children are aware of that. So gone are the days where we are just teaching in vain to the masses. We really are looking at every kid and saying, hey, by Friday, you're going to walk out of my classroom and you're going to be able to do this. And kids own that. And all the way up from, starting in kindergarten, their goals look very different from a 11th grader's goals, but they know where they are and they're able to express that. And just like any child or any adult, if we know where we're headed, if we have that end in mind, we're much more likely to reach success.
Yeah. So I kind of view it as, in the old days when I was a teacher, I kind of used a shotgun approach. Brought in my 35 kids and everybody got the same lesson, same pace. This is really focusing on individual learners and that lesson like a laser and meeting the individual needs of every single child. It
is very invasive. It is, and I think that was one of the biggest mindset shifts for me as a teacher. I started teaching with a shotgun approach. When before MTSS was a real big initiative in North Carolina, I was teaching basically tier 1 core instruction. Everybody got it. I would pull kids to the side, and work with them as they needed it. But I didn't know where their anchor deficits were. I didn't know exactly what was causing them to have the problems that they were having in my classroom. And MTSS really defined that for me. And when I started looking at my data, and in an invasive way, it hurt sometimes because I realized I'm not doing what's best for my kids. It was a teacher problem, not a student problem. But once I was able to make that mind shift, results started changing in my classroom. For every kid.
Now, is this a new initiative, or has this been around for a while, or?
MTSS has been here for years. It's a new acronym. We changed, initially it was response to intervention, and then North Carolina said, we want to be more proactive, let's change that to instruction. So they changed the acronym to response to instruction. And then a little later, they said, actually, this is not just academics. This is behavior, too. And Mark Shin, who is a brilliant MTSS mind, I recently heard him speak in Houston, and he said, we've really kind of gotten away from RTI and MTSS are the same thing. They're really not. RTI, response to instruction, is how that child really does respond to the system of supports that I have in place. So when we're looking at, the legal aspect of it and what we're liable for, when we're asking, okay, I've got this support in place for my children with the MTSS model, here is how my child is responding. So it's just not just that, let me try this one time and quit, or let me just try this all year long. We're constantly revisiting that and seeing how that child's responding. But
And I
it's
think-
really just a continuous improvement model. It's the same thing we've been doing. We're looking at our data, setting goals, making decisions, evaluating how that went, and then making changes to it.
Yeah, and I think the greatest thing about it is we're not exhausting all of our resources with staff. We're not asking someone, okay, here's a behavior intervention plan, do this for a year. No, we're going to reevaluate that in 3 weeks and see how the child's responding. And we're not just putting things on there that we're guessing. We'll try this, we'll try that, see how it works. No, the things that we're suggesting on the academic and on the behavioral side are evidence-based best practice interventions. So it's very time efficient and very effective.
Now, who owns this process? Does this belong to the district, or is this a school-based initiative? Who runs this on a day-to-day basis?
On a day-to-day basis, it's the teachers and the counselors, the staff in the building. It's really just doing what's best for kids. It is looking at, hey, what do our kids need, and are we giving them what they need? Most recently, I was in a school where it wasn't just the teachers either. Kids would walk in off the bus, and our front office staff were reading with kids or doing sight words with kids.
Wow.
Our cafeteria staff, while they were waiting in line, were asking them multiplication facts.
We have custodial staff that are check-in, check-out advisors at some of our schools. And I think another big piece of the puzzle is families. Families are part of MTSS too. When we talk about the whole child model, it's not just that whole child at school. It's the whole child outside of school. It's the family involvement. It really is every single aspect.
And it's building that relationship and letting the kid know that my parents know what's happening at school and they support what's happening at school, and my school knows what's happening at home and they support. So it's really this, let's come together, really a true team approach made of everybody in the school. And the schools that really take that and own that, you're going to see the biggest bang. The ones that are most vulnerable to look at their data authentically and to really truly make changes. And that's hard. Change in education is hard. Because as teachers, we don't want to be up there doing something that we're not so comfortable with ourselves. We don't want to risk, because these are children's lives. But the schools that own that and have that continuous improvement cycle, and they're constantly looking at their data, they're far exceeding schools across the nation.
NB Mills yesterday was invited to come down and do a presentation for the State Board of Education.
So exciting.
So that's one of your standout schools there. They've really embraced MTSS, that school, haven't they?
And
They're
that,
a model for behavior. And I couldn't have, when I heard it was MB Mills, I couldn't have handpicked a better school to go represent ISS and the MTSS process for behavior. It's phenomenal what they have going on there.
they have cut their data in half. And it was hard at first when and it's easy to make excuses with MTSS. The data looks like this because, for this reason.
Or we couldn't possibly do all that intervention. There's 40 kids that we're going to have to intervene with. But I'll tell you what, their principal is the driving force. Their counselor owns the behavioral side, and they have the highest mobility between Tier 1 and Tier 2 and kids that go back down to Tier 1. This year, they have not even had a single kid need to go to Tier 3. Because they're providing those interventions with fidelity.
And that is a true example of how fluid the MTSS tier should be. Just because we move a child in Tier 2, that's not a life sentence. You know, if our intervention is appropriate and we start closing those gaps, we get to move them back down to that core instruction. And same thing, you know, for life beyond the tiers. The whole point of MTSS is that we're identifying gaps and closing gaps before children ever need exceptional children's services or special ed services. Nothing should ever be a life sentence for students. They should always be able to move back and forth between the tiers or out of special education once they close that gap.
Right. Now, with all the work that you do, you have to train staff. So what does professional development for the staff look like in MTSS?
I think that varies from school to school, depending on the need. Just like all of our students have different needs, every school is at a different place of implementation. One thing that is going to make that a little bit easier for us to see as a district is the administration of the SAM, which is self-assessment of MTSS. This is a state fidelity tool that they're going to be using to just kind of monitor the implementation at every school building. And it really breaks it down onto the 6 critical components that are required for MTSS to be fully implemented. And it breaks it down from leadership to data evaluation and problem solving to the 3-tiered model approach. Where is it that your school needs the most support? And something that I think is exciting and on the forefront is that we can take those results and individualize PD and say, okay, we see that in your school, you really need the most support in 3-tiered instruction. Let's come in and work with our, curriculum development leaders and provide good instruction strategies for you guys. Or if it's data evaluation, let's come in and let's work with you on using your data. And really differentiating PD just like we differentiate instruction for every student.
So from
That
the
makes
district
sense.
level, just looking at where could we best serve as coaching.
Right.
And then also, I know student services, we're asking counselors to own the behavioral side. So we have ERPDs. I'm at a school, sometimes 3 schools a day, going and coaching and helping. So we're providing that support in that realm as well.
How often are you guys in schools?
Daily,
Yeah.
multiple schools a day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
every
great.
day.
This brings me back to something that I learned as a young teacher many, many years ago. I had a principal who had a sign on his office wall, and it said, "Kids don't care what you know until they know you care." So talk to us a little bit about how important is it to build relationships with kids before you can teach them anything.
It's the number one predictor of academic success, and it's everything.
The number one predictor. Wow.
And that is actually an intervention that we are piloting in some of our high schools because we have found, in high school, secondary is on the forefront of the MTSS model. There's not a whole lot of schools across our state, high schools across the state, that have fully implemented MTSS. In fact, Iredell-Statesville Schools is probably ahead of most of those districts. And the research that we're finding from the schools that have fully implemented is that to go back and close foundational skill gaps for kids in high school is not most effective. If you're in 10th grade, but you're reading on a 5th grade level or 8th grade level even, for me to close those gaps by the time that my course ends, I haven't taught you the content in my course and you haven't passed my course and you're still not caught up for reading or math or science.
Yeah.
So we have found that really the greatest impact in high schools is building relationships, letting those students know that there's someone here that cares about whether or not I come every day and how I'm doing in any of my courses. And it's really a mentor model.
Yeah, Check and Connect. It's an evidence-based intervention. It's for behavior, it's for academics, and it's for attendance, which is another one of the initiatives of MTSS. We're really working on lowering that dropout rate, getting kids to school, building relationships with staff so that they know, hey, someone cares and notices if I'm not here, so I need to be there.
Yeah. I remember one time going through, we asked our kids that do drop out to do an exit survey. And one of the common threads in that was sometimes they just come out and just say it. Nobody cares about me. But almost every single child referenced the point that they didn't feel connected to the school, that nobody was there for them. Nobody was really sympathetic to their issues that they were dealing with beyond the school day. So when I hear you guys are working on that, that's very, very powerful.
MTSS is here to save those kids.
Yeah.
And that is truly my vision for MTSS and Iredell-Statesville Schools, is that every single child feels support in any or both.
Sure.
For academic or behavior, whatever it be, I want them to feel support.
Yeah, this could impact that very brilliant child
Oh, yeah.
who is feeling unchallenged
Absolutely.
and
tell you.
bored with school.
Exactly. Some of the calls that I go and consult for behavior intervention plans, and I'm looking at data. So I'm not just looking at behavioral data, I'm also looking at academic data. And there's been several far above grade level, and it's conversations with teachers. Okay, how are we engaging this student? Maybe this looks like we're differentiating during this time and providing more challenge so that they're engaged in their learning.
Well, I think you're undertaking very noble work. And I know this is going to have a tremendous impact on a lot of kids. So I'm excited about what you're doing, and I'm glad that our district has embraced this and that we are one of the leaders in the state with the MTSS.
Most certainly.
How can folks get more information about this? If they'd like to read about MTSS or see the triangles, how can they get more information?
There is tons of information on our website. If you just go to departments and then under continuous improvement, there's an MTSS tab that has all of our district resources for students, for teachers, for parents, whatever it may be. There's also contact information on that website. So if anyone felt lost or confused or didn't quite understand the language, because sometimes it is scary, especially for parents. When you say, well, your child's receiving Tier 2 supportive instruction, it's scary. So if they need help in just understanding what that is and what that looks like, they can contact myself for academics or Jessica Mack for the behavior.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you both for being here today, and best wishes as you continue this great work in our district.
Thank you. We appreciate the support.
And thank you for watching. Again, if you want more information about this, visit our website. And as always, thanks for tuning in.